My dad always described the Black community as crabs in a bucket. Once one crab reached the brim and was due to be set free, all the others would cling onto him and bring him right back down to his demise. I was always that crab on the brim. But in journeying towards what I was conditioned to understand as a successful, beautiful human being, I found myself running away from my own Blackness. It was not until this year that I had become fully aware of this. I was born with the weight of the world on my shoulders. My mom was only 16, and in everyone else's eyes, I was the biggest mistake of her life. In each of Toni Morrison's novels, she draws a distinctive image of a community that ultimately shapes and drives each character internally. It is no secret that the detrimental community of drugs, abuse, and death was what drove my mother to seek the alternative, a similar route I took on my own when I was her age. In both Recitative and The Bluest Eye, Morrison uses the contrast of home by telling the stories of young girls who lived one way within their family environment, but saw a rather different world through their encounters with a close friend. The young female protagonists experience firsthand the struggles that come with being African American. Twyla and Pecola are victimized internally or externally, abused and affected by their communities that shame them or led them to feel inadequate, ugly, or confused. Due to our society's preoccupation with promoting that the only way you could obtain the ideal life was by being white. It was both my encounters with the outside world and with my own family that caused me to be confused, unable to identify with myself, and angry with both my community and my own skin color. Morrison has an outstanding way of utilizing emotive criticism, which enabled me to literally feel every emotion and tribulation that the character was enduring. I struggled to separate my own life from that of each of Morrison's characters. Pecola Breedlove was the literal parallel of the current life that I was struggling to overcome. When I started pulling my hair out last year, I attributed it to two things: the recent end to a physically abusive relationship and the fact that my own family had treated me the same exact way. Naively, I believed that striving towards perfection and attending the best boarding schools and universities would somehow overshadow the fact that I didn't have pale skin, long flowing hair, or pretty colored eyes. I thought I had figured out the perfect solution to being somebody. I spent the majority of my life succumbing to society's belief that Black was ugly, and the only way that I could even begin to touch the surface of possibly obtaining success, happiness, or slight recognition as a human being was through my education. Pecola was a victim to nearly everyone in her immediate community. The more I read about her ugliness, rape, and various situations of discrimination, I pulled my hair and buried myself into a world of obsessing over my own imperfections. My biggest problem, I now understand, is not only overcoming all of the physical, mental, and emotional abuse that I endured, but also, and perhaps most importantly, my belief that it was all because I was not white with long pretty hair, nice colored eyes, and a life above being ugly. Moving back to Atlanta for college has its pros and its cons. It's crazy that the memories of my own stepfather strangling me 4 months ago fails to anger me more than my realization that I had been living my life wanting to be white, living up to white standards, and idolizing white beauty. And then ultimately, I began punishing myself for not fitting into these parameters. Just how society had always picked at me, I began to pick at myself by pulling my own hair. In many ways, I saw myself and the people I encountered in characters like Shadrach, Beloved, C and Frank Money, Pecola Breedlove, Frida and Claudia McTeer, Roberta, and Twyla. Unlike Pecola Breedlove, however, Toni Morrison may have just inevitably saved me from resulting to an ultimate life of misery driven by a society that almost consumed me completely.